She promised me honesty. Said it like a vow cradled between her teeth, warm and close. A promise breathed across the kitchen island as morning light broke across the marble in clean squares. And I wanted to believe her because believing is easier than interrogating every shadow that falls across a day. She set her coffee down and held my gaze with that practiced steadiness, the way politicians do when they've already chosen their lies, and told me the weekend was for her sister, for recovery and rest and watching old movies in soft pajamas. And I nodded because the alternative was a chasm I wasn't ready to peer into. But the thing about vows is that they cannot survive the geometry of a receipt. A thin strip of paper with its black-lettered arithmetic and tidy lines. Because paper does not blush or hesitate, it simply shows you what happened where and when. I found it by accident. The way most ruins are discovered, one careless corner sticking out from the zip pocket of her handbag when I went to fetch a charger. The logo of a downtown hotel stamped in a tasteful serif. The date matching the precise hour she told me she was pulling into her sister's driveway 2 towns over. And beneath that, the itemization that turned my mouth to desert. Executive suite, 2 guests, 3 nights, room service after midnight. A bottle of wine that we had once said was too expensive to justify except on anniversaries. And then the small, trader line that somehow hurt the worst. Breakfast for 2 included. Domesticity crystallized in ink. The world tilts in tiny increments when the truth arrives. You don't collapse, you don't rage, not yet. You freeze, inventory the room. Feel your heartbeat count off its seconds like a metronome for a song you no longer know the words to. I took a photo of the receipt, tucked it back exactly as I'd found it, and stood so still I could hear the refrigerator hum like a trapped animal, while my mind started stringing together all the innocuous details from the last month that had felt like mismatched socks. The new perfume that smelled like citrus and risk. The sudden appetite for evening runs that ended with flushed cheeks and a silence she called content. The private smile she wore when she thought I wasn't looking. The way her phone slept face down as if the dark could keep the messages from shining through. I didn't call her. I let the hours spool out like wire, taut and dangerous. And then I went to the hotel because curiosity is just courage with a death wish. And I needed a witness who wasn't me. The lobby had the expensive quiet of places that sell discretion. All velvet chairs and wall sconces that glowed like the afternoon was a secret. And the clerk gave me the kind of smile that says yes, sir, no, sir. Please don't make me part of this. I slid the photo across the counter and said I'd like to confirm a billing error, my voice steady in the way a surgeon's hand must be while cutting. And the clerk did the thing they do. The clicking and glancing and the professionally neutral nod. And then the sentence that buckled my legs without moving them. Yes, it seems all charges are correct, Mr. Hale. The reservation shows 2 registered guests for those dates. 2, such a small word, such a large room suddenly pressing in on my lungs. I thanked her because politeness is what survives when dignity leaves, and I walked back out into sunlight that felt counterfeit, like stage lighting for the wrong scene. On the sidewalk, couples laughed, a bus hissed, the city continued its indifferent choreography, and I thought about how people talk about the moment. They say it shatters you, but really it hollows you, scoops out the familiar furniture of your insides and replaces it with an echo that answers every question with another question. Who, how long, why lie when she could have simply left? When she came home Sunday evening, suitcase wheels ticking the hallway like a metronome for the conversation to come, I had set the table the way she liked it. Bowls nested, napkins folded, our lives staged in a tableau of normal, and the receipt lay between the plates like a pale animal. She saw it and the color moved through her face in slow dissolves. First confusion, then calculation, then the reflex to invent a smaller truth we could both live with. I said nothing, because silence is a solvent, and watched her try to build a raft out of nouns. They upgraded me. I was alone. The restaurant mistakenly billed the room. You know how hotels are. Each sentence lighter than paper, none of them able to lift the weight of ink. When I finally spoke, 2 guests, she shut her eyes as if darkness could alter arithmetic. She confessed the way people do when they are caught by a system they thought they understood. Not with moral clarity but with triage. She said his name and it registered as static. A coworker, new, kind someone who made her feel visible in a way that, I suppose, I had stopped being able to do because life has a way of sanding our edges down until we are smooth, practical things. She said it started with a late meeting and an elevator ride and a joke that sounded harmless until it wasn't, and then they were checking into a room that had clean sheets and no history. And our marriage was on the other side of a hall carpet patterned like a labyrinth. I listened, hands flat on the table, to the movements of their nights. Her laugh I knew, his laugh I would never hear, the carton of fries they ate cross-legged on the floor after midnight. The way she had stood at the window and told herself she was borrowing a life she would return by Sunday, like a library book, like a sin that doesn't stick if you put it back quickly. She cried the way people cry when the room is burning and they want to soak the floor for optics. Big trembling apologies that crowded the air, promises that arrived already exhausted. It meant nothing. It was a mistake. I never stopped loving you, phrases as mass-produced as the soap the hotel had provided. But when you've held the receipt, the ledger of intention written in a stranger's font, you understand that meaning can be measured, and the measurement had been done already. A suite, a bottle, 2 breakfasts, 3 nights. I left the table and she reached for me and I could feel how those fingers had woven themselves into a story elsewhere. A story where I was a footnote with a mortgage and shared passwords. I took off my ring because symbols need to be returned to their original silence when they've been made noisy by misuse. And I put it beside the receipt so the metals could speak to each other about value and exchange. And then I walked into the hallway that had always felt narrow but now felt purposeful, like a runway for departure.